So we are recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Immersion Future of Work Roundtable series. As you are aware, I'm sure this is one of our Immersion virtual open houses, and I am excited because today I have with me a couple of my fabulous colleagues, Anna Strauss-Heifer and Alex Zellman, and they're going to be talking us through some of the artwork and design of simulations. So I'm really excited to share this new technology with you and how we utilize it. We've talked about how to create those scenarios and what those look like in terms of the, the strategies we're going to use and what that conversation is going to look like. But today you get to see how we actually bring it to life. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn things over to Anna. We also have a special guest with us, Miss Ann Zimmerman, who works with the DeBruce Foundation. For those of you that joined us last week, we had a fantastic roundtable, and Ann has jumped on, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you, she didn't know this until she jumped on, and we sort of asked her to volunteer to participate in our simulation that we're going to show you. So a very special shout out and thanks to Ann for being here as well. Anna, it's all yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everyone. I just want to quickly introduce myself and tell you a little bit about my background, what we're going to be doing today, and give Alex the floor to talk a little bit about his role. I'll be going through, for those of you, it sounds like we have, a lot of you have been on our roundtables before, so I'll be going just a brief overview of what Mursion is and how it works for those of you that are new to Mursion. We're very excited to always to share how the platform works, and because we take a very different approach to utilizing simulations and avatars for learning soft skills. So my role is as a learning technologist. I've been with Mursion for about 4 years. My background is in hospitality management, and what really made me fall in love with this technology was the applicability in helping frontline employees and customer service to give them a way to authentically really practice difficult situations that may happen with customers, and is really what drew me to it. I've done hundreds of hours of role plays with colleagues and in hospitality settings, and it just never felt quite real or impactful. And after seeing Mursion's technology a couple of years ago, I immediately was just drawn and saw so much potential for it, and still with Mursion today, and looking at the research and market potential across not just customer service, but all industries, from defense and healthcare and education, to those core leadership and workforce capabilities. Alex, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about your role for a few minutes.
Thanks, Anna. That was a great intro. I'll keep mine pretty brief. So my name is Alex Lennon, and I'm Mursion's art director. I have been with Mursion from the very beginning. I've actually have some history with the technology prior to Mursion, back at the University of Central Florida when the IP was initially developed. And so I have quite a bit of history with our CTO, Arjun Nagandran, and a handful of others that were here from the get-go. So I am involved with supporting Mursion's content development needs. And what that means is that I'm responsible for leading a small team that develops avatars, outfits, environments, animation systems, and a bit of research and development when it comes to the artificial intelligence behind I guess the magic behind how the whole system works. And that's pretty much my role here with Mursion. And so yeah, and so today, kind of just to lead in to what I'll spend a couple of minutes sharing with the community today. Today, I'm actually really excited to share a new tool that we've developed just in this past year that's going to really kind of help unify and centralize all the great content that we've built. And so we're dubbing it the Sim Designer. And so we'll dig into it a little bit later. And so yeah, looking forward to sharing the time with everyone.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you so much, Alex, for that introduction. And we will hear more from him in a bit after we go through some nuts and bolts about who we are and get to see a simulation and get a preview of a few elements, but Alex will be turning it over, really going in depth into the artwork and the different types of content that we're creating, and show you some new tools coming up. So just as an overview about what is Mursion, we are one of the only immersive virtual reality training platforms that uses a blend of human interaction from live trained specialists and artificial intelligence to prepare the workforce for essential skills. And what we consider essential skills are human skills. It's a fairly new term that some of y'all may be familiar with. It's definitely growing out there as more relevant than the term of soft skills, although that's in the same arena, as well as emotional intelligence. We know that what Mursion wants to focus on is bringing the best out of people and elevating the skills that they have that essentially computers cannot recreate at this moment. And when we're typically looking at how we develop these skills, there's some different options there, and some of them can take, you know, years to your entire career to develop on the job. And then with other types of learning activities such as video or e-learning, you have coaching as well. They all can be very effective and part of that learning toolkit. However, where does actual practice come into play? Where does inoculating stress and getting the blood pumping and feeling that little bit of necessary discomfort that learners need? And it's really hard to recreate and create these authentic spaces to provide that practice that feels real and can feel a little stressful as well. And our research has shown that an hour of immersion, which can be spaced out into about 3 to 4 simulations, can effectively target and change the behavior of a specific skill. And back to how the technology works specifically, like I said, we use a blend of human interaction and artificial intelligence, where there is a simulation specialist that is driving the conversation that is challenging the learner and putting them in personalized situations that they have to react to in real time. And artificial intelligence allows for that seamless experience that you see visually, and allows the sim specialist, or they can also be called trainers, to control single or multiple avatars in the situation. And you would design these scenarios that we talked a little bit in weeks past about how you design scenarios around a specific outcome. You want to frame how the avatars will react, and in that design engagement process. And also learners get feedback immediately after the simulation to go through some reflection and debrief as well. And just to give you a little bit about what you're going to see in a moment, is you'll be greeted by a host avatar, and this on the left is Evelyn. She is not the host you're going to be meeting today, but is one of our host avatars that is responsible for greeting the learner as they come into an experience, and make sure that they're set up with everything that they need before they go into their simulation. Once you are done talking with Evelyn, you're going to go into another environment and be able to practice your skills on an avatar that you may see here. You have, I think, George on the top right, and I forgot the avatar's name on the bottom right. And we're about to give that a shot today. I know I went through that very quickly, so feel free to send questions in the chat while we go through the simulation. I'm about to now stop sharing my screen and hand over the rest to Jamie and Bennett and Anne Zimmerman from DeBruce, who was here last week and is going to go through a simulation today.
Thank you, Anna. Can everyone see and hear me clearly? Just wanted to make sure, can everyone see and hear me clearly?
Yes.
Great. All right, well, I am Bennett. I am one of the other avatar hosts here at Mursion, and I understand that Anne has been gracious enough, as she is joining us as a guest today, to be our person who sits in the hot seat. And Anne, have you ever experienced immersion simulation yourself before?
No, I've seen like this much, but I've never gone through the actual experience.
Well, we are happy to have you do that for us today, and it will be great because we can get an honest, genuine first time reaction from you. So I think that's even better. I tell you what, I'm going to bring up the scenario that you'll be practicing with us today. I'll read it aloud.
Okay.
Feel free to read along silently and make any notes that you would like along the way. Today, we're going to do a performance coaching scenario, losing control of emotion. You are acting as a manager, and one of your employees, Linda, is generally effective. She is smart, dedicated, and passionate about her work. Recently, she's responded with hostility toward some of her team members. You've witnessed it in several team meetings. You also just heard that Linda frequently loses her patience with her colleague Lee when trying to solve problems quickly. The desired outcome is to understand the situation and get Linda's agreement on a plan moving forward. I will let you know there has been an event that's occurred, so she might be a little wound up at this point. You can use strategies like actively listen to her concerns, ask open-ended questions to learn more about the situation, check that Linda understands how her behavior affects others, and motivate her to take concrete steps to improve interactions with her peers. So I'll give you just a moment to look at that and let me know when you're ready to move on.
Okay, I think I'm ready.
Great. Then in just a moment, you will see an empty office. Then you will see Linda. Linda can see and hear you just as she could if you were sitting across the desk from her. You can start that conversation at any time. As this is a demo, feel free to say pause or end at any point, and I will come back for just a few moments of debrief. So enjoy.
Thanks.
Hi, Anne.
Hey, Linda, how are you?
Wow. Well, it's only Tuesday and already it's been a crazy week, but I guess I'm just pushing through like we always do, right?
Well, tell me what's going on with your week. Do you have a busy week?
Well, I suppose you've already heard that, uh, you know, I we got this email from McManus, and they are a very important client of ours. And we got this on Friday, and they had to have something by the middle of the day today. So I reached out to Lee. I forwarded, I sent him emails. I got nothing in response, Ann, absolutely nothing. I had to do this myself. And then when I went in the break room to get coffee because I missed my lunch because I'm behind, there is Lee yakking it up over some stupid a cat video, and so I gave him a little direct feedback, which I think he deserved, and now he's acting like I'm the one that did something wrong.
Well, did you check with Lee to see if he had even received your email about the project?
Well, I left him a voicemail. I left him a Slack. So I feel like something had to have gotten through to him.
I wasn't in the office, so I'm not sure if he was around. It's possible that he could have been out of the office. I certainly understand how you're feeling and your frustration, but it might have been a good idea to just chat with him first before. I'm like I said, I'm not sure what's going on with him, but I'm just thinking about how he might have felt in the break room, having you bring that up in front of the other staff.
Wow. Yeah, I guess to your point, I would not have felt good if somebody had done that in front of other people. I'll be honest with you. I feel like things have kind of been bubbling up with Lee as it is. And so I just felt so disrespected when I didn't hear back from him, because I don't know if he does this to you, but I always get, oh, Linda, you should smile more. People would like you better. He wants to chit chat and talk about the weekend. And I'm not here to babysit. I'm not here to make best friends. I'm here to work. And I am direct and firm. And I feel like he doesn't respond well to that, but I don't see him saying those things to the men around here. So it's not fair to me. And I'm frustrated.
Well,
Sorry.
it's obvious. It sounds like this has happened more than once, and I'm not sure. I kind of think it would be good for you guys to try to have a conversation about it, because as I've worked with both of you, I think you just have very different working styles. And I don't know that it's neither one of them is right or wrong. They're just different. And I think it would be wonderful if the two of you had a chance to actually talk about those work styles, so that you at least maybe understand a little bit of where they're coming from. I know I tend to be an extrovert, so I just start talking. And sometimes if somebody else is an introvert, that bothers them. So it could be a little bit of a personality thing, that you guys just have a different way of approaching projects. So I just, it's so important in this office that everybody finds a way to kind of understand where people are coming from, so we can have a more positive environment. So, what do you have any thoughts on, do you think you could approach him to have just a private conversation about this? Do you want me to be there, or, where are you thinking?
I thank you so much, first off, for offering up your advice and for both options. I think to your point, yeah, we do need to have a conversation, because I know that I'm coming from a place of wanting things done and get it done on time and being efficient and effective, but I'm not necessarily assuming best intentions on Lee's side. And I don't know if he was out of office for some reason. And you're right, I didn't really give him that chance to say. So now he turned red in the face and stormed out. So now I've got to approach him and see if I can get him to talk to me. But if I can, I think I'm willing to take that on my own and come back to you. But if I'm having trouble there, I really appreciate the opportunity to loop you into the conversation. So thank you for that.
Well, I just appreciate your willingness to be introspective about it. And I hope that conversation goes well. I think you'll do a great job. And I think as long as you walk in with that same sort of openness, that he did have best intentions and was certainly not intended, I think you guys might come to a good resolution. So thank you very much for your willingness to work it out.
Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to hopefully coming back with better news next time. So I appreciate it.
All right. Have a great day.
Nicely done. And before I turn you back over to Anna, let's take just a couple of moments to debrief that. Looking back at that conversation with Linda, what is something that you think you did that went well?
I feel like I tend to be sort of conversational. So I just kind of like, checking in on somebody and let them sort of offer. I mean, even though I kind of knew what was going on, it was just sort of, how are things going? So it was just sort of a low barrier to entry conversation to get her talking. And I don't know, it's so funny. It's like, it feels real because I know it's a person, and I, definitely recognize Jamie behind the voice. I feel like she was very, I don't think most employees or most people would have been quite so gracious to, she seemed to kind of respond really well. So I appreciated that. But I mean, sometimes I think you just need to let people kind of blow off and then ask a couple questions about why the other person might have been acting the way they did.
Absolutely. To your point, for a demo purpose, we tend to not ratchet up and make it quite as difficult. But I think that Linda was open because you utilized some really great tactics. You gave her your full attention. You can see, even though it's through video, that you made eye contact and you listened to what she had to say, and you really opened that door for her to respond to you by asking those open-ended questions and just letting her, as you put, sort of lay it out for you, and making certain that I like that you helped her unpack what it would look like if someone had done that to her, and for her to say, oh wow, how would I feel if somebody approached me and did that to me in the break room, and let her come to that conclusion on her own. Is there anything you would do differently next time?
Um, I might, I probably would be better if I found a way to ask a couple of questions to let her come to the solution instead of making the recommendation. So maybe said, well, what do you think you need to do to feel better about this situation, or something to guide her into her own sort of willingness to go and talk to the other person, talk to Lee.
I think that's an excellent reflection to allow her to come up with the solution. Is always more empowering for the person to feel like it was something that they have a vested interest in, and that they were a part of that decision-making process. You did offer options, which was helpful. And I just think there might have been an opportunity to unpack a little bit more of what was going on with Lee. To your point, Linda turned around fairly quickly there, since we are looking at a demo, but in a normal simulation, we would probably need to unpack that a little further. But in the interest of time, I am going to turn you back over to Anna and Alex. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thank you. I enjoyed it is a kind of a cool experience. What's weird for me is that my screen is on a different place. So I had to actually intentionally look in the camera to be looking at her. So, but it's very cool. Thank you for the chance to try it.
Well, thank you so much, Anne. We really appreciate you coming in to volunteer and try it, even though you hadn't tried it before. And that's often what we do. It's just really for you to get a feel for what the technology can do. And it typically surprises you of, wow, that was pretty nerve-wracking, or that was not, I didn't expect that to be as challenging as it was, because you're really in that moment.
Yeah.
And you need to address it. And so thank you so much for stepping up and helping with that today.
And my one comment would be, I really like the bookends with the host. That does help the transition into the scenario. So I think that works really well, and being able to debrief it at the end, I think is really nice. So
yeah, I think debrief is a critical component of simulation, and that's across all types of simulation, not just Mursion. Having the time to debrief and reflect on how that experience went. These simulations can also be recorded, so you yourself can even review your own performance later on, or share that with a manager or a coach, so they can review and help dive a little bit more into opportunities that there may have been, and so you can have that full holistic experience from start to end of being able to debrief. And we also do some very, very high stakes, very emotionally sensitive topics that we've done with Doctors Without Borders when addressing patients who are victims of sexual assault. Learners need to debrief from that, and we have an ethical responsibility to provide that space for them to be able to reflect and leave that situation not feeling potentially emotionally affected from their work moving forward. So it is a very critical component, and we have that host environment to give you that safe space as a learner to ask questions, or you can always pause in the middle and say, you know, I'm stuck here. Can you help me, give me a strategy or a question I can try out?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly when those simulations are, to Anna's point, very emotional, get very heated. It's a safe space to go back to and breathe, whether that's at the end of it or if you need to take that moment and redirect yourself, that host is there to help with that. They also serve a dual purpose at the beginning, not only to share that scenario and set the learner up for what they're going to be doing, but it also allows the learner just a few seconds of interacting with an avatar and to sort of take that time to adjust and get familiar with that so that it feels more natural once they actually go into the simulation.
And going back to what the process looks like to get to what you just saw, and what Alex is going to be covering for the rest of the time today, is where we get to that fully completed scenario. We went over a few weeks ago of how to create those scenarios, and now we'll be looking into in the first 2 to 3 weeks of an engagement with us. You are going to be going through not only the components of what you want the outcomes to be, and what the narrative, how challenging you want the scenarios, how you want the feedback delivered, but you're also going to go in, you know, how can we make this as realistic and authentic as possible by using a workplace or environment or avatars that are really similar to your customer or an employee or your workforce. So I'm going to hand it over to Alex now to talk a little bit about the tools for artwork and how we talk about the design of simulations and environments that are needed to make them as realistic as possible. Do you want me to stop sharing my screen?
Yes, if you could. Anna, I just want to, before I begin, make sure that everybody can hear me okay. I read a little bit earlier on that folks had a hard time hearing me. Am I coming through okay?
I can hear you, yeah.
You can hear me just fine?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's a couple of comments. All right, allow me to share my screen. Can folks see the deck here?
I can.
Great. So allow me to kind of set us up for what we're going to look at here with something I prepared, and then kind of set the context for what it is that we do with the content to support the scenario design process. So the Sim Designer here is a tool that we've created at Mursion in just the last 6 months or so, and we'd like to share it with the community and give about a bit of an insight into the community that's part of this call, but then with the bigger Mursion family. And we'd like to do that via the public site sometime late this summer. And so to say a couple words about the Sim Designer, you know, it's a tool that's created to empower kind of our community to author and publish their own simulations and bring their ideas and their scenario ideas to life. And so what I mean by that is the Sim Designer is really a place that's built to unify and kind of visualize all the great content that we've developed for the last 6 years. So currently the Sim Designer is a combination of art assets that include environments, avatars, outfits, and you can use the Sim Designer in creative ways to support your scenario design needs. So before I actually jump into the Sim Designer, I'm going to kind of play this little video for you and then say a couple more things here. So in a nutshell, the way the Sim Designer works, it's a web-based application that allows you to quickly browse libraries of content, and you can browse these libraries and filter things based on you know, your exact specification. So you might want to do a 2D environment, you might want to do a 3D environment, you might want to do a VR environment, and all of that is kind of built into the Sim Designer to allow you to quickly browse content and really customize your experience. So the Sim Designer is also built to support kind kind of varies amounts of scenes. So if you have a very specific idea for an individual scenario that you like to do, and you have thoughts about having one avatar or two avatars on screen, the Sim Designer can do that for you. And if you are thinking about Immersion as kind of a sandbox application where you'd like to really prototype and do different things and quickly change the visual aspects of on screen, the Sim Designer is also pre-built to do that for you. And so again, this little video kind of shows us this right now. And so what I'm going to do is take you into the tool itself right now and show you some of the features that have been built in there. And then we can actually construct one really quickly. And then I can run through these other slides here and kind of help the community visualize what's possible and how quickly you can build this content. So the Sim Designer here, again, is really straightforward web-based application. And you can preview, we can start with the environment. You can preview the environments based on specifications here at the top that you can filter with. So we can start with a 2D environment, and so I can say a couple of words about that. So a 2D environment is a very kind of straightforward and quick way to design a simulation. And so we're able to integrate a 2D environment very, very quickly to support a scenario that one might have. For example, just a couple of months ago, we came up with the idea of what if we built an environment that supports like the Zoom configuration. And so using 2D backdrops, as you can see, these are primarily photographs that represent people's homes. We were able to mock up a design to support what it would be like to do a simulation with 5 or 6 or 10 avatars in a Zoom call. Moving forward from there, if you wanted to add some avatars to this configuration, you can add some filters and drag some folks into these slots, and relatively quickly come up with a design that you like. Now, once you have the avatars chosen that you like to be in these roles, you can, again, select their outfits. This is probably more useful for when you do a close-up simulation and you want the setting to be authentic, business casual or formal. On a Zoom call such as this is probably not as useful. But again, the ability to browse outfits and filter by the type of outfit that you think the avatar might look best for in this scenario, you're able to do that right here on the fly. So as we are designing this simulation, you might think, well, Alex, how long does it take, from the time that I design this using the Sim Designer to the time I can experience this in Immersion live kind of simulation? And so to talk timelines, something like this takes a little bit over a week currently. So if you were to spend a few minutes designing your simulation in the Sim Designer, within about a week or so, we can author this content for you and bring it into a live session. Some other things that's interesting about content creation immersion that maybe we're talking about is the overall production process for these various assets. So oftentimes we have clients that come to us and say, I've reviewed your library and it just seems that we don't have a certain pool in the demographics. I would like to create an avatar of a very specific ethnicity, or I'd like to create an avatar from a special population. And what does it look like to do that with Immersion? How much time does it take? And how long before I can do a simulation with, with content that you guys currently don't have? And so to say a couple words about that, the process for creating an avatar from scratch takes about 4 weeks, from the design process to the feedback to integrating it into the Sim Designer and then releasing it in software. That whole timeline is about 4 weeks. If you were looking to create an outfit for an avatar, that takes about 2 weeks. Also, other things that we can do is the 3D environments. That timeline ranges between 2 and 4 weeks, but about a month is what that process looks like. And then the last component that's worth talking about is the animation. So the animation is kind of the the most complex of the custom work that we do, and it generally varies depending on the project and the kind of resources that we need to gather to author that animation. But in any case, every time we take on that work, we have to engage the motion capture studio and talent and work to authentically capture those behaviors, which later are integrated onto the avatars to make it possible for them to behave in certain ways to support your scenario needs. And so the timeline for animation work is typically between 3 and 6 weeks to again gather the resources, the reference, to run the motion capture suite, and then visualize those on screen with one of our avatars. Um, let's see. Moving on, let me show you. So Anna, I am not scanning the chat room, but if there's any questions,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear them.
Well, Linda had made a comment about the drag and drop as being very, intuitive and seamless and being very smooth. I had just a couple questions as well on animations and maybe covering a couple projects, but I think that you are on the route to do that now. So um, and feel free. I just wanted to announce to the audience, if you do have certain questions or if you're looking for maybe a specific environment that that we have, we can just ask Alice and we'll see if we can pull it up on the Sim Designer as well.
Great. So the next couple of slides here are just, again, showcase of some of the latest simulations that we've pushed out in the last 6 months. So we've been really heavy into production, and the types of projects that we've been taking on have been kind of growing in complexity. So one of our most recent releases was the introduction of this early education classroom that had not just these 5 kids, but also kids that were from special populations, that were ASD children. They had special animation libraries, and that was a very involved process in working with subject experts to design and develop the various motions and behaviors and sound effects to authentically represent these children. So again, one of the more involved productions that we've produced here at Immersion. Another one we have, again, fresh off the production line just the last couple of months, is the new Immersion upper elementary classroom. This bunch of kids here is from the 11 to I think 13 or 14 age category, and so each one of these classrooms can support simulation with 5 or 8 or 1-on-1 or 3-on-1 avatars to really kind of flush out whatever scenario needs you may have. Another one that I would like to showcase here is Immersion's latest high school simulation. So between these various age groups in the education space, we really kind of built out our product offering in this past year to be able to do an entire K through 12 simulation, if you will. So there's actually a number of high school simulations in development currently, but this is the most recent one. Let's see, these ones here are for a hotel chain. This one here and the following one here. Again, just sharing unreleased images of productions that are wrapped up here recently. Let's see. And let's see. Oh, and another thing that we're working on in terms of customizing our avatars are the overall BMI index of characters and being able to support various populations, including expecting women. And so this is part of a brand new project with an unanimous client that we wrapped up as of I think 2 weeks ago. So we're now able to do medical simulations with expecting women, and we have full range of animations that support their gestures and behaviors in that space. So that was a really kind of rewarding project for us. Yeah. So to wrap up with the Sim Designer, I think it's been a really uh, kind of rewarding experience for us to author all this content throughout, the 6 years that Immersion has been up, and now finally kind of unify all of it in a way that will allow our customers and just people who want to learn a bit more about Immersion to just play around with the visuals and see how they can use the technology to support their scenario needs. You wouldn't. The idea here is that when we bring the Sim Designer to the public website late this summer, it'll kind of allow people to, you know, without being on a call, without setting up a meeting, to just jump in the Sim Designer and start putting things together and see what creative new ways they can, use the artwork to support their scenario needs. Um, yeah, so it's been pretty rewarding in that aspect, and we're always building out new features. So one thing that excites me is that once we open up the Sim Designer to the community, to the Immersion family, we're no doubt going to get a ton of feedback. We're no doubt going to get a ton of requests, and we're looking forward to that because it helps close the loop on the development process and really kind of allow the community to drive the library that we offer for simulations, and so that's going to be an interesting new way to kind of interact with the inner workings of Immersion and the content team. Um, that's pretty much what I had prepped for today, Anna. If there's any
Great.
questions for the community, I'm more than happy to answer, or
Yeah,
we can
there's a
start.
couple questions. So Brian had asked if we had more technical field settings and avatars with hard hats. And I know we've done a couple projects where avatars have to be dressed with PPE. So
Mhm.
if you have anything to share for that. And then another question about hair. And because you had mentioned that the animations can be slightly more complex and take a little bit, and also just for background, we are an extremely agile company, and the development that we're able to do these in such short time frames is really incredible. If I guarantee you that most other development in VR is a 6 to 12 month time frame, and the fact that we can say this is what you need and this is what's going to give you the value and make sure that it's realistic and authentic to your learners, we can actually get that generated in just a number of weeks and have it ready for your learners in again that 8-week window from start to finish of also creating the scenarios. Is there anything do you have anything here in your stock, or your, not your stock images, but your prepared around PPE or hair? Because I don't know if
Yeah,
hair is part of animation or if it's part of the outfit.
yeah, no. So I can actually field both of those. So there pretty much is no limit to the degree to which we can customize these avatars. What I've shared today in the Sim Designer is a very kind of a generic application of constructing a simulation. So you select an avatar, an outfit, and a background, or 3D environment, and combine those. Um, if you had special needs, like you had the need for an avatar to be wearing hard hats or glasses or any other accessories that would bring more life to the authenticity of the simulation, to really kind of ground the visuals. You know, I think of the visual component, what we put on screen, as the supporting tools, supporting elements that really kind of make our simulations come to life. Right, our AI and our actors are the driving force behind the training, and so they are really the 90%. The way I see it, they're really the 90% of the power of immersion, and the visuals, which help close the loop, are the 10%. And so, if there is any visual aspect that we can add to the visuals to help push that forward, help add to that, we can absolutely support it. And we've done that over the years by, again, creating avatars from special populations, to take in custom photographs from our clients that would have a very specific look to their environment. So the range of custom work that we support is pretty extensive. So and then the second question with regards to hair and animation. So Immersion, from a technical standpoint, it's a real-time experience that is networked and running simultaneously on both the client side and the learner side. And what that means is, because it's a real-time experience, it's using the power of your graphics card to render the simulation at minimum 30 to 60 frames per second. So all of those visual components, the 3D model of the avatar, the hair, the environment, all of those things have to process at least 30 times a second. And so because we are a real-time experience, we have to be conscious of performance so that people can experience immersion and not be burdened down by the heavy kind of rendering requirements of higher end graphics, like you would imagine in a a film quality type of work. And so there are liberties taken with certain components, hair being one of them. It's very difficult to render super high realistic hair, and so we model it the best we can to support the ability to use immersion with low to medium spec machines. But again, all of there's innovation that's happening on all of those fronts. The hair, the skin rendering, the ability to for the AI component of avatars respect one another and interact with one another in the room while the learner is not engaging them. What is it that they do when they're not being driven? And so all of those components are in the R&D state moving forward, and we hope to bring them to our community. When those technologies mature enough to be ready to be shared with everyone. So there's always just so folks know, there's always kind of two swim lanes at Immersion on the technology side, and specific to the content, because I can speak to that. There is the aspect of us supporting our current clients and developing simulations, as needed, as things are sold and as new requirements and new contracts come in. And so that work is ongoing, and there's a whole team of people that are handling that work. And there's another subset of folks that are in the R&D team, and they are head down thinking about, how do we improve the technology? How do we make it more realistic, more authentic? How do we reduce the requirements on our learners? One day we'd like to be on mobile devices, and we'd like to be, available everywhere at any time. And so all of those, difficult questions we're always thinking about and solving those problems. So, yeah, I mean, just one last thing to add to this. In my experience with Immersion over the past 6 years, I've seen the technology evolve substantially. I was here when we launched with the first middle school classroom. That was the initial IP from the University of Central Florida, and I was involved with the design of those avatars. I was there when we built the initial animation system, which was a state-based system, right? The avatars could essentially just morph from posture to posture to kind of give the impression of what they were intending with their body language. And we've since evolved past all that into a full-on motion capture system, and the steps there to create those motions are significantly more involved, and they bring all the realism of the human motion and also all of its fidelity to the screen. We put talent in motion capture suits. We put cameras on them. So we record them live with video. We record their faces and all the emotions that they carry during the live scenario. And we have the suit on the actor to capture the actual physical motion of their body. And because the rules in which our bodies move are the same regardless of our regardless of age or size, we were able to remap that motion across various skeleton types. So I may be a 30-something guy, but you can take my motion and put it on a 12-year-old child, and the physics of that motion will still look accurate on those avatars. And so we're able to do some really creative things with that technology, and seeing it evolve over the years has been really rewarding. So we hope to continue to innovate and bring that to our Immersion family.
Yeah, and to
Absolutely.
talk more about the resolution of the avatars, they're compared to what else is out there in the market, and you've seen different ranges of animations of avatars, and they're not intended to be so photorealistic that they look like people or like photographic, but that they have a level of naturalism that feels nuanced and, you know, and true to a human gesture or nuanced micro expression that may occur in the face. And that's really where the highlight of the technology and being able to show those nuanced gestures to where it feels human, because a lot of what our component of what we're teaching is not just what you say, but how you say it, and understanding and reading those nonverbal cues and communications. And that's, you know, why we take such pride in a very clear and high fidelity resolution of the avatars and their environments and the animations that they express. There were a couple more questions.
There are, and I'm going to let you loop back to one, but just while Alex was talking about the motion of everything, I'm just going to jump in because there was a question about using two interactors to illustrate people talking over each other. And we actually have one simulation specialist that drives all of the avatars, even in that kindergarten environment. All 5 of them is that one sim specialist, and we can have up to 4 adult avatars. But it's the beauty of that motion capture that we've incorporated and put into the artificial intelligence that drives that motion, that keeps that scene alive within those other avatars while they're not being inhabited by the sim specialist. But our sim specialists are trained really well. They do interrupt each other. In that conversation, we could have had Linda and Lee come back and argue with each other, and they definitely can interrupt each other and talk to each other and have that conversation that heightens that stress.
Another element that happens is in the middle school classroom, which one of my favorite things is 2 of the girls are texting each other under their desk, because the avatars actually have the ability to also pull out their cell phones and look at their, you know, and it's one of the teaching scenarios is the teacher has to be, you know, telling these 2 girls that they need to stop texting each other during class. So we really try and bring those elements to make it feel very real. And there is potential opportunity for avatars to to talk over each other. However, it is just one person that's driving the entire simulation, and that helps with the efficiency and scalability of using this technology. So you have those capabilities. Another question was, you know, the need for, first, what's the optimal time a simulation should run? Often leadership simulations are about 15 minutes. For a single person to go through a scenario, there is an element of fatigue that can happen. And so we focus them on very targeted skills, and they usually run at about 15 minutes for like a leadership development simulation. As a customer service one might be significantly shorter. You can also do workshops where it's a longer session time, where you have an hour or 90 minutes where multiple people will go through a scenario, and their peers will be able to observe each other and facilitate discussion. So that's an option as well, but you do want to make sure that they're tight, so you don't have that fatigue that can happen, because it is quite a very, you know, a very engaging experience where you need to be on and focus the entire time. Another question that was from Linda was how we work in an engagement process, and I'm just going to quickly share a slide that we have to just describe what the scenario or the design process looks like. And basically what you had seen today was similar to our managed services, our option A, where you work with, we work with your subject matter experts, and we work together to design and determine the assets and the scenarios, and we use our team of specialists to actually deliver them. In terms of art, and then the other option is having a software license, where you will determine the content that you will need for your license, and we will train your people on how to drive those simulations on your own. However, Mursion will still work with you on the art content and development that you will be needing for for your delivery. But we have the option to, you have the option to deliver these yourself. So someone who was earlier asking about other languages and potential accents, if you, and I recommend this for our global customers, is going with the software license so we can teach you on how to use it yourself, and you don't need to rely on our talent and capabilities. There was also another question about, where was it? It was for D&I scenarios, where creating scenarios where a participant is feeling the emotions of a person of color, like a day in the life, and Immersion does not do that. And there has been some other tools where that has been done and tested, and it ended up having regressive results. And so that is not our approach. We're really a conversation simulator. So it's a place to be able to address microaggressions, or be able to have these conversations in a safe space and be able to practice those, because we know in today's climate, these are the mistakes that we can't make. And but learning how to have those conversations does require practice, and a safe place to do that, and a brave space to do that. Any other questions that you saw, Jamie, that would be helpful?
Looking through.
Oh,
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Alex.
I saw a question. I don't know if I properly addressed the hairstyle question. I talked about the quality of the hair. The question was, how long does it take to change a hairstyle? So that's a pretty trivial thing for us to do. That, you know, would take just you know, a week or so at most to address that and re-release a version of the avatar with a different hairstyle.
Yeah. And Peggy was also asking about some of our pricing models. And Peggy, that is a specific model for the education packages. So it really depends on if you're using our current existing bank of scenarios, and it just requires a little bit more discussion. We are meant to be a very agile and flexible platform. So if you need some slight modifications or changes to what is existing, that is something that just warrants a short discussion to go over on what that is. But essentially, your users, it's a user-based type of service. So how many users are trying to do that, and then whether or not, how much new content for either scenarios or art that is needed for that development. But again, we have the ability to just rapidly and quickly develop that for you.
And Anna, can I also piggyback just for 1 second on what you're saying about art content and building new art content and how much it costs? So just in this last year or so, here at Immersion, we've developed a number of classroom simulators. In the past, we've had the middle school, and then upper elementary came online, but now we have the entire range of K through 12 simulations. And what that means is reduced costs for future clients in case they ever want to decide to build their own classroom. They don't have to build it from scratch. We have extensive libraries of these animations that I described, these behaviors for avatars that we could just grab off the shelf and apply. And if folks are after specific visual components of an avatar or the teacher parent conference, whatever ideas you have around what, you know, your simulation dreams are, we can definitely make them a reality, and we can certainly cut costs in terms of budgets to build those things, because we have so much of it already, and we're able to reuse and kind of and be able to do that, pass the savings on to our clients.
Absolutely. And as much as I would love to continue this conversation, we are at the top of the hour. So I want to be respectful of everyone's time and say thank you. I did drop into the chat a link for just a 15-minute discovery call. So if you have any other quick questions you want to answer, then please feel free to use that. I also put my email link in there so that if I can get back to you with any answers or direct you to the person that has them, I am happy to do that. And I just want to thank you all for your time. Go ahead, reach out to us with those questions. As you can see, we love talking about Immersion and what we do, because we're very proud of what we offer. And what it brings to the community at large, and that ability to practice those really sticky conversations in a safe space that empowers you to feel confident when you go out into the real world. And I'm going to let you guys all go out in the real world and enjoy your next meeting. Thank you so much. A very special thank you to Anna and to Alex and to Ann Zimmerman, especially for jumping in and being our surprise volunteer for today. So everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Yep.
Take
See you
care.
next week. Thank you.